So now we move on to our next king, Ancus Marcius. He's going to be our fourth king of Rome. He is the grandson of Numa via Numa's daughter. So his mom was Numa's daughter. That's his connection to Numa. And he is seen as largely a balance between Numa and Romulus or Numa and Tullius. Both of those kind of the same. I kept calling him Hostilius instead of Tullus. Sorry. Tullus Hostilius. This was our third king.
Yeah.
Okay, so first king and third king. Second king was Numa, the religious one. So he's seen as a balance between these two, both looking to religious things and making sure religious responsibilities are taken care of, while at the same time largely engaging in war and military practices. Now remember that Tullus, who came before him, pretty much completely neglected all religious practices and said, it doesn't matter if we practice this anymore, who cares about that, got rid of a bunch of stuff. So when the grandson of Numa, Ancus, comes to power, one of the first things he does is he reinstates a bunch of the religious rites that his grandfather put in place. On top of that, he actually codifies them, has them written out so that you can see what the actual religious practices are as a person, and makes sure that those are posted in public places, so that regular citizens no longer have to consult a priest about what the practices are or how something should be done. And they can just kind of start seeing to their own religious practices. Kind of makes it more, democratizes religious practices, spreads it out more amongst the regular population, just taking care of their, whatever the religious needs would have been. And then, on top of that, he added more religious rites that Numa didn't have, specifically for war. I'm going to give you a taste of just one of these. The practice for now how Rome will declare war on someone. So when Rome declares war, they have their envoy go to wherever city-state that they're declaring war against. Because it's going to be a city fighting a city. That's how it was set up. That's largely who you're fighting is other cities. So your envoy, who's now responsible for declaring war, what would he do? When he would walk into the enemy's lands, there was a certain prayer that he was supposed to offer up to the gods, along the lines of, if our cause is just, O Jupiter, please guide us in, blah, 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 our conquest. Then, he was supposed to the first person that he saw in enemy territory, he was supposed to declare, he was supposed to give Rome's demands to them, saying, you have to do this, this, or this, or else we're going to declare war against you. He again had to do it when he first entered the city that they were declaring war against. And then finally he had to do it when they got to the city's forum, wherever the city did their public business, where he declared it to the entire city. So 3 times they had to make it clear to this city that we are going to declare war against you if you do not meet these demands or whatever the complaint was. Now what happens if the city-state completely ignores your demands? After 33 days, if they haven't gotten back to you, so to speak, there was a special javelin that you would take to the edge of their territory. You had to find 3 of them and say, you 3 come here, watch. As you threw this javelin into their territory, it just lands in the dirt somewhere. And you make some prayer saying, that's us declaring war on you. And go get their javelin, go home, and after that you're at war. So a 30-day, or I think it was 33 days of cushion, warning. It's kind of seen as being civilized, doing it right. Integrating the religious practices and being civilized, kind of one and the same thing. Okay, so that gives you a sense for how he's introducing religious practices to war. Go ahead.
Why doesn't the envoy just get killed by the city-state they're declaring war on every time?
That is a very barbaric thing to do. Now, if you are a city-state, you have neighbors who are city-states. There's kind of like a code of conduct. It's kind of like when we're walking down the street and I see you with the ice cream sandwich. Why don't I just slap it out of your hand and take a big bite? Well, because next time I'm walking down the street and you see me with the burger, you're going to smash it in my face.
Well,
or whatever.
If I saw you do that to someone else, I would lose confidence and trust.
And then you got Partly there, who when he saw the first time, and he kind of wanted to punch me when he saw me do that to you, when you slapped it in his face, and he watches me fall, as he's walking by, he might give me a good kick, just for good measure. And so you build up a reputation amongst these city-states about how your people behave. And so killing the envoys, that is a big no-no. And we're going to see Rome, there's going to be times where envoys come in, and the kings are very particular, don't touch the envoys. Let them go.
Interesting.
It's your way of having the higher moral ground. Because that guy who's ultimately going to be dying for you in that battle, he wants to trust that you're a good guy. And that the gods are on your side. Jupiter, he's with us, right? We did the proper rituals, right? We've tested these things before, they work. Don't mess. So, becomes important. Okay, so that's one of the things, reinstitutes a bunch of religious practices. Another thing we're going to see as a consequence of the wars that he inevitably gets involved in is that he drastically increases Rome's population, and it's getting so out of hand that they have to construct the first prison to deal with these people as they assimilate. So, you got some bad apples, just put them in prison as they assimilate. It's kind of like an assimilation program. You have to stop behaving the way they were behaving before and start behaving more Roman. How exactly that was carried out, not a clue. But, first prison.
Okay.
He's going to be one of our kings that just dies of natural causes, lives his life, and then eventually dies. He rules for a total of 24 years. So there's our high view of him. Any questions before we start getting into the meat of some of the things he did?
Yeah. Do you think is there any significance to a large nose that they had? Like, do they care about it and it's prestigious?
I have no idea how they viewed having a large nose.
I actually think it was genetic, because I remember.
Well, it is kind of genetic. There's a joke, Italians having bigger noses. But whether there was something seen as royal about it, I don't know. Okay, so let's talk about some of these wars and what went on under his kingship. Now, it was well known that he was the grandson of Numa. And what did Numa do as king?
Religion.
Religion, right there in his little city. And he couldn't care less what was going on over there. Yes. And so the Latins, who were just all taken in, kind of gives you a sense of it. Ignore this for now. The Latins who were all taken in under Tullius, the previous warlike king, are thinking, we got some religious guy now. He's going to be like Numa. This is our chance to rebel, and he's going to pretty much say it's not worth it. And so they test him, and they find out. And it doesn't turn out too well for them. So a bunch of Roman towns rebel against him. A bunch of, I don't know exactly where they were, end up rebelling against him. And he goes ahead and he defeats them, no problem. And he ends up doing to them, it's common practice, burns the towns, takes the population, moves the population to Rome, and integrates them. Specifically under him, Rome was getting so crowded that they had to now integrate the Aventine Hill.
Who was rebelling?
These 4 Latin towns, and I know they're supposed to be roughly close to the Tiber, I think, but just Latin towns thinking, here's a guy who's going to be like his grandfather Numa, not very warlike. This is our time to rebel, and he's just going to kind of ignore us and let it go. So try to get their independence back. It doesn't work. Their cities end up getting burned to the ground. All their loot gets brought back to the city of Rome. They get brought back to the city of Rome. Rome expands to the Aventine Hill to accommodate its larger population, and they build their prison to deal with the population as they assimilate to being Romans.
You know the population number at this moment?
No. You kind of just have to guess at it based off of the military
soldiers.
size.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, there was also a time where V, once again, getting involved with Fidene, they decide to, once again, rebel against the Romans. And once again, Rome goes up there, reasserts their control, gets control over Fidene, and drives V out.
Seems like they have established Roman leaders in the military over there at some point.
Now I'm wondering if this is a war I'm thinking of. No, okay. Sorry. I get all these guys mixed up in my head a little bit. I have to remember whose accomplishment is what. Okay. So once he reestablishes control of Fidene, what he then ends up doing is establishing a port city now for the first time down here, Ostia. So now this is an actual city on the Mediterranean Sea, and on top of that, it's at the head of the Tiber River. And another thing that he does is he goes and he starts actually building forts along the Tiber River to start getting control of the Tiber River. And down here by Ostia, another reason that they wanted it is that there was some salt that they could mine right there, and so that was just one more thing to help the economy. I should tell you that in a nutshell, our king here, Ancus, or what was his name?
It's like Marsh.
Ancus Marcius. Ancus here, he's largely seen as establishing the economy of Rome and the backbone of the economy of Rome. So one of the things I didn't mention is in this fight with the Fidene and B getting involved, as a part of the treaty, and what they settle upon by beating B once again, is there was some forest in the region, I'm not sure exactly where it was, that as part of the treaty, that forest now belongs to Rome. And so now they have access to that wood. And so he's expanding the economic capabilities of Rome, is what he's largely seen as doing under his kingship. So builds a port city here, re-establishes control of Fidene here, and now establishes forts along the river to get control of the Tiber River. And then one of the things he does is he builds the first permanent bridge over the Tiber River up here, right by Rome. Understand that Rome is completely on one side of the river. He builds a permanent bridge across the Tiber River to Rome. And there's a hill just on the other side of the river in Etruscan territory that he also builds a fort on really close to Rome. So that they can quickly deal with any Etruscan threat coming from this side of the river now. Go ahead.
Are the Etruscans pretty united, or is it kind of like Germanic tribes?
It's more united than the Germanic tribes, less united than the Greeks were like with Sparta. The real problem that the Etruscans have is that while there are a bunch of powerful cities, there is no top dog. And so the power is just very evenly distributed and no one ever gains control. And so what we're largely seeing over in history is the Etruscans pretty much are maintaining the control they have with all these balanced cities, each having equal power. What you see down with the Latin League is Rome keeps growing in power, dominating the Latins more and more and more. And we're going to see the point where it comes that the Romans are now greater than the Etruscans. Big picture is where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's largely accredited to the fact that the Etruscans were just too balanced. They didn't expand on each other. Whereas the Romans keep methodically building out, dominating all the Latins under one people. But yeah, so very balanced in power. Anyways, so he builds this, the first permanent bridge over the Tiber River, made completely out of wood, and then a fortress on the other side to help defend against the Etruscans. And then fortified along the Tiber as he went to ensure that they had good trade in the region. Now, just to an artist's reconstruction of what the bridge would have looked like, I want to give you a sense for what it might have looked like. And even though it's made of wood, it's not some small feat, not some small accomplishment.
Yeah.
It's a very big deal, the bridge that they ended up making. Because you got to make it tall enough that it doesn't interrupt the trade going on underneath. And it's got to withstand when there's flooding or whatever there is. So, seen as a massive accomplishment.
That's cool.
Okay, so that ends the first 4 kings, the Latin kings of Rome. The next 3 kings that we'll be talking about are the Etruscan kings of Rome. And so, kind of an awkward space to block it off, but I think that's kind of a good place to stop it and do the Etruscan kings next time and start by talking about the Etruscans. So, leave the rest of this for any questions you guys have.
Why are you saying Etruscans have conquered Rome eventually?
No, just of Etruscan descent, and we'll have a lot to say about them.
Oh, okay.
So currently in our story, here's roughly what the picture looks like. Rome, the 3 major cities controlling, and notice what they're going for, controlling the trade, controlling the rivers. Good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead.
Can I ask an off-topic question?
Sure.
Do you want to talk about the tribunals and what they were at this point in time? Like, are they just purely military stations?
No, there's no such thing as a purely military station. Every military station is also a political station. And so these tribunes are like the local general of the tribe. So it may not be what's considered the chief of your tribe. Not sure why I just did that. I'm not sure if it would be considered what was the chief of your tribe, but they would have been someone high up in the tribe, someone that you trusted to manage your portion of the military of what you're contributing. And they're definitely representing your tribe. So your tribe has its own internal structure, whatever it is, and we don't know what that is. And even into Julius Caesar's day, they still had their own tribes. And Julius Caesar, we call him Julius Caesar. Julii is the name of the tribe he was a part of. His name was Gaius Julius Caesar. Gaius was his first name, the same way that we have first names. Julius was his tribe name, and then Caesar was his household name. And so even their names largely follow this type of structure. And it's a big deal what tribe you're a part of. And it was also the case that you would have adoptions all the time. And it would be the case that one grown man would adopt another grown man. And that was not an unusual thing to happen. As that's a political move you would make to reassociate yourself with some different tribe or with some different household. And it's a big deal when that happens, and it's not a strange thing when that happens. And so Julius Caesar, one of the things he did is he adopted Augustus Caesar as his heir. And that's not some small thing. And we even call him Augustus Caesar, because he was adopted into the Caesar household. And that's now his household name.
Well, wasn't he a nephew of Caesar?
Yes, but a nephew through a sister.
Oh. So different tribe. Or at least household. Right?
At least different household name, because Octavius was his household name prior to that. Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll pick it up with the Etruscan kings next time and get to the Roman Republic.